Another opening, another show.
In Philly, Boston, or Baltimore.
What would Shakespeare think about Cole Porter's 1948 Kiss Me, Kate, a retelling of Shakespeare's The Taming of the Shrew? And just as an aside, I wonder what Cole Porter would think if we changed his lyric to In Philly, Austin, or San Antonio. But back to Shakespeare. What would he think about Rodgers and Hart's The Boys from Syracuse, drawn from Shakespeare's The Comedy of Errors? Then there's the rock musical Two Gentlemen of Verona, a show which overwhelmed the competition for the 1971 Tony for Best Musical and went on to reap a bounty of millions of dollars for Joseph Papp's not-for-profit public theater. But let's be fair and not just speculate what the bard would think about Romeo and Juliet as Tony and Maria, or the Montagues and Capulets as the Jets and the Sharks. What would Shakespeare make of Prokofiev's ballet of Romeo and Juliet, or of Verdi's operatic Otello? It's my guess that Shakespeare would be pretty pleased to see how his stories for the simple stage of Stratford-upon-Avon have lived on and grown into other titles, with musicians and prima ballerinas playing the starring roles. And of course, how could he not smile at the gangsters in Kiss Me, Kate? Where'd they come from? Singing Brush Up Your Shakespeare.
Brush up your Shakespeare. Start quoting him now. Brush up your Shakespeare, and the women you will wow. Just declaim a few lines from Otello, and they'll think you're a hell of a fella.
If your blonde won't respond when you flatter her, tell her what Tony told Cleopatra.
If she fights when her clothes you are mussing.
I'm James Baker, and Friday evening we will indeed brush up on our Shakespeare as we unearth further treasures in the extensive Tobin Collection of theater arts at San Antonio's McNay Art Museum. We will hear the clashing of swords through the music of Prokofiev. David Amram will provide music for King Lear, and Jody Blake, curator of the Tobin Collection, will show us some of her favorite Shakespearean pieces from the collection.
The Shakespeare collection is really an exception to the collection's general focus on musical theater. We certainly have material for operas and musicals and ballets based on Shakespeare's plays, but also for the plays themselves. And the collection, for the most part, is from about 1910 on through, well, let's say the present, certainly through the 80s. Some of the earliest material is also some of the most important in our collection, the very visionary designs by Edward Gordon Craig, who was a British designer, the son of Ellen Terry. He grew up in theater, and he was the equivalent in theater of a Matisse or a Picasso, that idea of sort of stripping away all of the realistic illusion and getting to sort of the pure essence and poetry and drama of the plays. And he sort of pioneered the idea of a sort of a bare abstract stage. He created the forerunners of something we take for granted, which is sort of folding panels that could be reconfigured and lighted so they could be Elsinore or castle, or they could be a moor, or just, imagine in this idea of not a painted pictorial stage, but an architectural stage that, of course, we take so much for granted today. So that's really some of the earliest material, and its significance really transcends just the staging of Shakespeare. In addition to Craig's drawings, we have actually some of his scale models for the screens that are made out of cardboard and wood and fabric, and he used those with his scale models to experiment with that system. So it's some of our treasures that people travel from around the world to see.
And don't forget to check out the slideshow for Week 3 of the Tobin Collection, A Musical Vision. Here you will find selected artifacts from the collection which will become talking points and then provide a visual backdrop to the music. It all comes together to bring the Bard back to life Friday evening at 7 o'clock on KPAC-San Antonio, 88.3 FM, and KTXI Ingram at 90.1 FM.